It's very hard to be nervous if you never have the chance to even think about it. So I'd be that guy who just flings you out of the airplane before your parachute straps on properly.
That's an unfortunate metaphor.
There you go, Teddy. On you go, mate. Out the door. See you later.
Oops, here's your parachute.
You'll need this.
It should catch up.
Ladies and gents, this is Terry McCoy, one of the Spartan life coaches. Hello, Terry.
Hi.
And we're going to be, just have a little chat with Terry, so you get to meet him and find out about what he's about and what we've been up to with the Spartan life coaching in terms of helping people overcome narcissistic abuse and CPTSR. So, Terry, first of all, where are you from?
Scandinavia.
You know, you don't sound like you're from Scandinavia.
Liverpool.
Whereabouts in Liverpool are you from?
Oh, the Wirral.
Now,
Pensby.
Where? Sorry.
Pensby.
Oh, Pensby.
Do you want where it was actually conceived, or do you want where it was actually sort of?
I do want that, but I have too much good grace to ask you in a public forum. I'll ask you.
To answer that question, Liverpool, quite good.
I feel I know too much almost too much. Now, when we shot that thing the other day, that I won't call a three-way, but between me, you, and Steve, we eventually on the playback, we steadily got more and more scouse, didn't we?
Right.
So I'm going to try.
Is that your way of saying tone the accent?
We shall both try to be as tonally flat as we can be and clear and beautiful.
Oh, hi. I thoroughly agree.
Yes, correct. Only because it becomes impenetrable. But, and neither of us wants to be that, I'm sure.
But actually, funnily enough, no one has ever said to me,
no.
You know, no one's ever said, I haven't got a clue what you're saying.
No. And nobody said that about Steve either, which, I mean, you have had, both of you, quite a few clients, haven't you, where English is actually their second language?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's
just a case of slowing down.
Slowing down, yeah. And I think when the three of us got going and we were taking the piss out of each other, it just got absurdly accented. And I'm very worried when I release that and nobody's going to know what the hell we're saying.
So is that binned?
No, I will chop bits out of it for the channel. I have to now because I've teased people with it and they'll go, where is it? We want to see this thing.
Right, okay.
But I'll just be careful with, I mean, I wasn't joking when I said about putting subtitles on. I mean, I can do that. I can get somebody to put subtitles on.
Yeah. I do joke when I'm working down south.
Yeah.
I do joke, you know, I do offer subtitles, you know, a special t-shirt with give you subtitles. You know what, funny enough, they don't laugh.
So go, what are you talking about, you northern monkey? So what was your original background in coaching and counselling when you first started out?
Are we talking from the year dot since I started the NLP works? Okay, yeah. I got into I've always been interested in the mind, even since I was about 15. I always wondered why I thought the way I thought. Yeah, you know what was going on a certain mind. You know, and as I grew up, as I got, you know, again, it sort of fell by the wayside because I've had a number of jobs over the years. I was an electronics engineer. Then I went into life insurance, funnily enough. And they were very, very big on personal development, every day, positive thinking, 5 years, you know. But what they didn't tell you, you know, was how dangerous it could be without the action to back it up.
Yeah.
So looking out into your garden and going, you know what? There's no weeds in the garden, you know, but it's cluttered. It's full of it, right?
Yeah.
For me, positive development is, yeah, my garden's a mess. I'm going to go out and mow it. Does that make sense? I'm going to do something about it. Yeah. But that sort of took me on, you know, I sort of, again, wondered why. I was crap at selling insurance and I wondered why, right? You know? And funnily enough, I did a, you know, the values exercise that's in session 6, I believe,
Yeah.
on course, right? I did that back in 1989, right? And that was instrumental in me making me change my job,
Right.
having a career change, right? Simply put, the values that I was taught in this company was top money, earn, right? Earn money, big house, car, all this kind of stuff, right? And it didn't sit well. Didn't sit well. So I was sitting in this cafe, right, staring into my cup of tea or herbal infusion, right? And I thought, you know what? It was actually Anthony Robbins, the book Unlimited Power. Someone gave me. I thought, okay, what's this values hierarchy? Did it? When I first did it, it was money at the top. Okay, then put it in priority, order of priority, yours. Now this is where I think a lot of people make the mistake. They put down the values that they think they should have, or they've been taught to have. Yeah. But when you really think about it and say, okay, what are mine? Right? It ended up that money went from number 1 to about 4. Number 1 became helping others, job satisfaction, freedom. Yeah. Tends to be the more abstract one goes on the top and the others fit underneath.
Sorry, go on, mate.
Is this making sense?
Oh yeah, totally. I was grinning like a Cheshire cat when you were saying you didn't do very well selling life insurance and that money wasn't your top priority. And I'll just, I have this ongoing thing with Terry where he is.
I know where you're going.
You know where I'm going. He is probably the nicest human I know. So between Terry and Steve, and obviously myself, there are different personalities working. We're working to a similar structure. We share similar values. We have the same objectives. But Terry is, if you need gentle in your coaching and kind, I would recommend that you go with Terry because he's one of the nicest people I've ever met. You're not that ferocious life insurance salesman mentality. That's not really you, is it? No.
Let me kind to the people, ferocious with the problem.
Right.
Yeah. Ferocious on the behavior.
I like that could be your motto, that.
Yeah.
Kind to people, ferocious with the behavior. I like it. That's good.
It was never knowingly professional. Joke.
So how did you've now got your own company, which is teaching NLP, and obviously you qualify NLP practitioners. Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. I became a certified trainer of NLP back in 2005 with John Grinder, who was a co-developer of NLP. I originally say with Richard Bandler, like yourself. I did a master practitioner with him. I wanted something more. I wanted, I got the bug, right? And also I was very, very lucky at the time because all the training in Merseyside was funded up to 80%. So I took advantage of it. And I think I sat and worked it out once. I must have done about £25,000 worth of training over 3 years, if not more. NLP coach, certified NLP coach, certified hypnotherapist, trainer of hypnotherapy. Went to America to become one of those.
You actually went to America to train with John Grinder, right?
No, I trained with John Grinder in London.
Right.
But I went to America because he doesn't certify in hypnotherapy. He doesn't certify trainers of hypnotherapy.
Right.
There's a guy called John Overdeath who was possibly, in my humble opinion, one of the most eloquent hypnotherapists I've ever worked with. And it just so happened again, in 3 months he was doing a course in Liverpool, and he said in 3 months I'm doing a certified trainer's training in hypnosis. If you've got the relevant qualifications, come over. I did. So I did. And it was kill two birds with one stone. Always wants to go to America. Always since I was a kid. Yeah, because that's where you got DC Comics from.
That's where you got DC what?
DC Comics from.
Oh, DC Comics. You're a DC
fan. Because when I was a kid, I was into those.
Who was your favorite character in the DC world?
I can't even believe you're asking. Batman, clearly.
Oh yeah, okay. That was a stupid question, actually. Yeah. Sorry about
Cut.
that.
Cut.
We'll stop this interview now. I think that's quite enough. Batman.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so you went there excited because you'd read the comics about America. Whereabouts in America did you go for the training?
Atlanta.
Atlanta, lovely.
Yeah. Again, it was killing two birds with one stone. I always wanted to go to America. I just had a thing for the life, just wanted to see what it was like, the culture was like, So I went a couple of days earlier, and took in the place. It was a nice sort of hotel outside of Atlanta, so it was nice, countryside there, creek and forest and all that. And I did it at the same time, actually. I did certified trainer of hypnosis, came along with accelerated learning, came back, had 2 days off, and did certified training of NLP. So I actually did it all in over 5 weeks,
Right.
which was interesting, should we say. As much as I love the subject, I was shattered after the time.
That's a lot to go in one go. What's the name of your training company that's based in Liverpool now?
The NLP Works.
The NLP Works. And in the Northwest, you're one of, if not the biggest trainer for NLP, I would think.
Well, I was the first trainer on Merseyside to teach a particular style of NLP, co-developed by John Grinder, which is New Code NLP. And the main differentiator between classic code and new code, as it's called, is in new code we work with state management. There are a few other elements as well, but yeah, I think as far as I'm aware, I'm certainly the longest lasting one, should we say?
Right.
In one of the longest lasting ones in the Northwest.
Right.
It's
cool that you've been trained by John Grinder as well. I mean, I know a lot of people who, like me, did the training with Richard Bandler and with Paul McKenna, but you're the only person I know who's trained with John Grinder, and it is a very, very different style, isn't it, that he adopts?
Yeah, it's very different to Richard Bandler, and we've had this conversation. I think you'd enjoy the training. His certified coaching course is possibly the best, one of the best, the top 3 courses I've ever been on, and I've done a lot. Over the years, I've been around a bit.
So I might actually have a look at doing that next time I'm over in the States. You've been working on the Spartan Life Coach project now since January, isn't it? How have you found that, Terry? Say it was great. Say it's lovely working for me. I'm awesome.
Do you know what? Richard is one of the most the nicest person I've ever met, ever. He's such a softie. Yeah. Our family, great, love it. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's very challenging.
Yeah.
When I say challenging, you've got to be on your game.
Yeah.
You've got to be on your game. It's very rewarding in as much that generally speaking, the people who come to see you are they're hating. They're in a bad state. Yeah, and it's so rewarding when they realise, this is my own personal opinion, that for the first time for some of them, for most of them, there's hope. Yeah. They realise this isn't the way it has to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
If ever not making sense, let me know. Well, you will.
Yeah, well, you know me. I know it can't be a real compliment when somebody says I'm nice and kind. I'm like, yeah, nobody who knows me would compliment me in that way.
I'm being sarcastic. Don't you recognise that?
I just want to make sure that everybody who's watching, who might not understand the English sense of humour, got that Terry was being rather sarcastic. So yeah, I mean, as I told you when you were coming in, the emotional state of some of the people, they are, well, and you've seen it now. It's bordering on total desperation, despair. I mean, really. And that's most of the clients you've seen, isn't it? On the first session, you can sort of feel
I was quite surprised actually, because for the last 4 years, most of my 90% of my one-to-one work has been PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Various generalized anxiety, various subtypes of anxiety and PTSD, mostly through vast majority accidents, people being in car crashes, explosions, whatever it may be, right? And I have come across a few who've been in sort of not good states, pretty poor, I was quite surprised at the level of anxiety, if that's the right word, if that's the right label.
I think it is. I think it is anxiety. I mean, we've tried to find different terms for it. Sam Vaknin coined the term narcissistic abuse victim syndrome. We apply CPTSR as a term for it, but the baseline state.
A really useful distinction that instead of CPTSD, CPTSR, because for me, have I missed a letter out there?
No, you got that right.
As far as I'm concerned, it is a conditioned response. And when you take off disorder and what's the word I'm looking for? Substitute it with response, because it's a conditioned response, it's a learned response. You can unlearn it. You can relearn something else. There take time, take discipline, but it can be done.
There is a little bit of a problem in mental health, generally, isn't there, with a sort of a flavor of rubber stamping people and going, you have PTSD. That's it for life. You just got PTSD.
It's when you decide to put a label on something and categorize it, you instantly put a boundary around it. Like for instance, I have CPTSR, whatever it might be, right? And once you have that boundary, it can, for me, it causes, it doesn't open, it massively, I'm not getting it right here. Thing is, it reduces your behavioral flexibility. Once you say, I've got this, now, my job or our job, as far as I'm concerned, is to give the other person more behavioural choice, right? Okay. So, for instance, let's give you an example if I can. Let's say I'll use an example of someone in a car crash, who's been in a car crash, right? For example, they can generalise out. They then put it in a category of all cars are dangerous. All driving is dangerous. And the generalized belief, you like, is if I go out, I'm going to die. It's been, it can be generalized out that and they put car travel, if you like, in the category of dangerous and anxiety. Our job is to remove that experience and put it in its correct category outside of the. Is this making sense?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to recap something that we've sort of said there, but maybe people missed it, which is you were working specifically with clients who had PTSD for 4 or 5 years. That was your major specialty. Then you came to this and you noticed that even after specializing, people are the victims of violent assaults, car crashes, domestic violence, accidents, that kind of thing. Even after that, the baseline state of the average client that I'm introducing you to is more anxious and more agitated than that.
Yeah.
I think it's important for people listening to know that for 2 reasons. One is like that self-compassion thing. If you actually feel awful, you feel like you're in a state of despair and desperation, that's the nature of what we're dealing with, and it can be it can really, really get under the skin. And the other thing is for people listening to have a bit of hope. Like you're also on that same page. We can say, well, you've never done more than 6 sessions with anybody through me, have you? It's always been around 6 sessions, and inside of 6 sessions, everybody has gotten better, haven't they?
Yeah, they've all moved forward.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's that thing I'm constantly sort of saying to people, like, I think one of the problems, and I'm sure you've seen this yourself, is like if I've had a problem my entire life and I've read books, been to seminars, been to this therapist, that therapist, even tried antidepressants, and you come along and you're telling me inside of 6 1-hour sessions you can fix something I've had for life, that just sounds like garbage. It just sounds like garbage. That is a logical conclusion, isn't it?
And here's the difference. Here's the difference as far as I'm concerned. Right, I'm not fixing it. I'm giving the other person the hope and the tools, the practical tools to apply to themselves so that they fix it. They can fix it. Yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Is the big difference as far as I'm concerned. The people who you can see a difference. People who've gone on the course, done all the homework, done everything they've been asked to do diligently. Yeah. They get the greatest benefits, right? Not that I've had anyone, and I can't remember how many clients we've had. We've had lots, haven't we?
Yeah, I know that you've both done now more than 200 hours. I figured it out, so yeah. quite a few, upwards of 40 clients each now, I think.
No one springs to mind that's actually been on the course and said, "Well, I haven't, I can't be bothered doing it. I just don't bother doing it, and they haven't made any gains." But what has happened is they've let life take over. You've tried it a few times and gone, "Oh, it's good, this. Oh, okay. I'm sorted now." To me, it's like the ideal example is the mnemonic, the 5-finger mnemonic. Right? You do it a couple of times and go, "Wow, it works. I don't have to do it again." And then something happens, you go, "Bloody hell. Why isn't it work?" It's got to be layered in, layered in, so it becomes habit. You don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So after the time, they don't even have to do that. They just go, think, pump.
I actually was just working with somebody recently who is a very famous, very successful celebrity in his own right, a very intelligent man who's very creative, and that's how he's always done well. He's got a very powerful analytic mind. And I told him to do the 5-finger mnemonic, and he was like, "This is ridiculous. How can you ask me to do this?" And I was like, "You've got to do it." He said, "Don't make me do this. It's like the 3 little pigs, this little pig you went to." And I was laughing with him, and I was going, "You just trust me, just do it. I know it seems ridiculous, but if you do it, it works." And I because he's got more of an analytical way, I sort of got into it with him, and I was like, "Look, we're trying to recondition an unconscious response. So even if you're stood there feeling shame or stupid or awkward, going, 'I am in charge of my state. This is not me. This is the,' even that, you're still building a boundary break between the feelings and you just responding to it with an emotional flashback. You're kind of pushing the two apart, but you do."
Bang on. Yeah. I have my own sort of, and there's different forms of it in different books I've noticed, because there's nothing new under, very little new under the sun. Trigger, pattern, result. And the trigger and the pattern is, boom, don't even, there's not even a break. My job, or part of my job, and when yourself, is to create that change space between the trigger and the pattern. So at that point there, you might want to do the pattern, or you might feel compelled to do the pattern, but you've got a choice this time. Yeah. And the more you take the other choice, as we know about neuroplasticity, the more you take that choice, that becomes the neural network that fires over time rather than the old pattern. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, and these aren't like trade secrets or anything. This has been, like you say, there's nothing new under the sun. I remember neurolinguistic programming was talking this in the early 80s. Anthony Robbins got in trouble for using the term NLP without permission. So he said, "Fine, I'll create something called neural associative conditioning," which is actually NAC, is an Anthony Robbins thing. He dropped it. He doesn't talk about it anymore, but anybody can read about it in Awaken the Giant Within. It's actually a more scientific, better definition of what goes on than NLP has, but it's the same thing. Like, it's a pattern interrupt, and anybody you could create your own. All that we can do is sort of offer guidance and offer support whilst you're doing that. There's not, it's not magic really, is it? But we do sort of need people to go through the process.
That's what we're talking about when we give them the tools. Once they understand that how pattern interrupt works, you know, trigger pattern payoff, for instance, whatever you want to call it, right? They can create their own.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I was talking to one of the clients. As soon as they start feeling X, anything else, stand up, change your physiology, do something. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because for some people, even trying the mnemonic causes a problem. So okay, so it's about scalability. Okay, so you can't do that. That's the next best thing. What's the easiest next thing? Okay, as soon as you approach it, as soon as you feel something, do something else. Bam, change your state.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, a lot of the problems, they just stay it's too internalized, isn't it? They become like a closed loop, and people stay stuck. And I think that's what causes the despair and the desperation, is that self-isolating cycle of just having this, you know, because you start thinking you're mad. You'd be like, every time I see a watch, I feel blah, 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 and I'm out of control of it. And it's like, well, you know, every time you see a watch, if you put something else in place, maybe we can start to build that gap there and push it out. But it's, I think why we're getting faster results than people would in traditional counseling or therapy is because of actually going to the root of the problem and going, let's rewire that. I didn't know you were an electrical engineer. That's interesting.
Yeah, but well, entitled.
This
is what it amounted to. The printed circuit board.
Yeah.
Ow! Change that one. You know when you'd wind up.
It was
Plessy Telecom.
Who are you working for?
Plessy Telecom on Edge Lane. A lot of people called it the holiday camp.
Right.
It was.
But it's kind of an electrical engineering job that you're doing now, with like rewiring that circuit board or helping other people to. We can't really do it, but we help other people to. I'm only just realizing. I didn't have a chance to discuss this with you and Steve yesterday in the meeting yesterday, that I'm going to have to say something about the work ethic, and actually sort of, I do put it in the courses and in the tutorials, but I think I'm going to have to do more to say to people, you really need to buy a workbook. You really need to be committing to every day, a certain number of times every day. You've got to get this thing done, because it's. I think in this day and age where everything is so easy to download, and the solutions to food or things you want, everything just is so much easier. It's quite hard getting people into that mindset of, oh, I'm actually going to have to do some work here and work for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As a side note, sorry, I didn't finish that story before. I just got a message through from the guy a few hours ago who's like, that's ridiculous. I can't do that. And he was like, yeah, I feel really good now, and it worked. And I'm like, yes. Sorry, mate, I cut you off there.
No, you're right, because on occasion, when I've been going through the mnemonic with some clients, you can see them going,
yeah.
Oh, oh, I do, yeah, I suppose it does, yeah. But I think what happens is they think when they change the state, it's going to be, oh, wow.
Right.
Not always. It's just, hang on, there's something different here. There's something different I can do. Yeah. And there's something I want to pick up on when you said it's an unconscious process, right? Trigger pattern. I think I mentioned it, right? Before you know it, you're in a pattern, you're in that state, right? Even bringing the trigger into conscious awareness, making the person self-aware that this is a trigger and this is the pattern. When they bring it into conscious awareness, it gives them that creates that gap, and they right, okay. Yeah. The analogy I use, me and my analogies, Rich.
Oh, I do. We've got an analogy coming. Strap yourselves in.
Yeah, you're all right for an hour. Yeah. Have you seen those old Christmas decorations? You get them, and you pull them like garlands, right? And when you first buy them, they're wrapped in cellophane. They're about 5 mil thick. Yeah, they're tightly wrapped in cling film, right? You take the cling film off, you put the garland up on the ceiling, or we did when we were little anyway. From the corner of the room to the lamp, and then on the 12th day or 12th night or whatever, my mum would say, let's take them down and put them away for next year, and you'd try and put them away exactly the same way, fold them back together, right? It never goes back together the same way, does it?
Right. No.
And an unconscious trigger is exactly the same. Once you bring it into conscious awareness, you can never really go back the same way.
I think actually maybe I should create like a secondary option for people, or like a white belt level version of the hand mnemonic, where if you really can't do it, if you can literally just take your finger up to your head and go, this is an emotional flashback. This is it, rather than just going, oh my God, I feel this way. Like you're saying, like it would create that unconscious restretching or removing of the neural pathway so that something new is there. So it's not just see it, do it, see it, do it. It's now I'm seeing it, I'm still going to do it, but at least for the first few goes, I'll have some conscious awareness, and then that slowly builds over time with repetitions.
Yeah. So a particular exercise that's been quite successful with a lot of clients is, as soon as they feel, they can't, if they feel that they can't get the mnemonic, right? They haven't got there yet. As soon as you feel anything other than optimal, as soon as you feel the slightest inkling of an emotional flashback, put the awareness out. Okay, what four things I can see that are blue in my visual awareness? So I can see the blue vase there. I can see, whatever it might be, blue, whatever it might be, three things I can hear. I can hear the car going past. I can hear my phone buzzing. I can, I'm feeling, for instance, feet on the floor, temperature on the room on the face. What does that do?
Yeah. I know that you do a lot of sort of Buddhist style mindfulness to bring people back to reality, to bring people back to the moment, don't you?
Buddhist psychology, in my humble opinion, is one of the most useful psychologies and practical, believe it or not. I'm not talking about the spiritual aspect, I wouldn't regard myself as particularly spiritual, but the psychology of it is spot on, absolutely spot on, and a lot of the contemporary therapies like CBT, NLP, compassion focused therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, they've all taken from Buddhist psychology, and it wasn't until I started studying it and going, hang on, that's CBT, that's NLP.
Yeah, I remember reading. I read once somewhere that somebody, I can't remember who it was saying that, strictly speaking, pure Buddhism isn't really a religion because it's not faith-based. There's no all what you can observe and what you can feel with your five senses, and it's the logical, objective conclusions from that.
It's an attitude and methodology. I'll say that again properly. Methodology.
It's a methodology, kids. It's a bit of an attitude. We're going to teach you to have a Scouse attitude, and that's what's going to heal you. Every time the emotional flashback comes along, you'll be like, see you're going to get banged out.
You, flashback, no.
No. You can say no. You can headbutt the flashback. So as far as the narcissistic abuse side of it goes, I mean, you hadn't had much experience with NPD type issues before doing this work, had you?
Well, I teach conflict management and negotiation skills at Chester University, right? And that with the conflict management, most of the people who came on the course, it was never sort of, company to company. It was always interpersonal. The boss was doing this or whatever like that. So I got more into interpersonal conflict management, which took me into, manipulation, narcissism, and I also had personal experience of a couple of people who were tickling the underbelly of narcissism, should we say, right? And and I thought, I'm not having this. This is no. So I became, like anything that interests me, I become really, really curious, and that was it. I started studying it, looking at it, and then, funnily enough, coincidence or you contacted me back in was it December or early January?
It was December last year. Yeah.
Yeah. Initially, I thought, what a coincidence. Synchronicity.
Synchronicities of the universe.
Synchronicity, universe.
And how have you found it? Like, I mean, obviously, so you would have been aware that they're a psychopath, they're a narcissist, they engage in manipulative behavior, but sort of actually, because one of the first things that we went through in the training was actually breaking down the whole cluster B spectrum, wasn't it? Did it sort of jive with what you'd already seen in terms of manipulative behavior?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And you may find this funny, but the people you say, you say, oh, he's a nice guy, right? Narcissists don't think I'm a nice guy. Well, the people who the people who are trying to be manipulative, they decided I'm a different type of person altogether. And funnily enough, they back off.
Yeah, I think if they it's fairly universal. I mean, Sam Vaknin has described them as operating almost as like an alien hive mind, and the protocol is fairly universal in that if they really don't think they're going to get what they want from you, they just stop, because it's not, it's a predator. Why the predator doesn't have anything to prove. It's just going to go, well, this isn't giving me anything. I don't know, I'll go and feed over here instead.
We'll find someone easier. Yeah, it's. What are you going to say, sorry?
I was just going to say, as far as working with people who have been the victims of narcissistic abuse, I
missed the third bit. It was a little bit sort of
it
dropped out a bit.
Oh, as far as working with people who've been the victims of proper narcissistic abuse, has there been any recurring sort of a theme that's come up that you see with people where, they'll say to you, Terry, the one thing I can't deal with is this or that?
A couple of things. Once they realize that it's not them, right? Because a lot of them are conditioned into the believing that it's all their fault. It's never their fault. Never their fault. It's moving on from there and thinking, well, it's like now that I know that I can grow and I can change my life, what's next?
Right.
So it's like an open page, if you like.
Yeah.
So it's also about teaching the clients, if you like, to want. We've had this conversation before, haven't we? And again, the vast majority go, don't know. Okay, well, start small. Start small. Even if it's look. You mentioned something early on about compassion, self-compassion, right, and self-care. That is key. One of the first things, and it's connected to Buddhist psychology as well. One of the first things I ask someone to do, whether they believe it or not, right, is give themselves all right. They may not be able to forgive at that moment, but give yourself a break. Yeah, just give yourself a break. Yeah, because a lot of people, a lot of the clients say, well, I should have done this and I should have known that, and why didn't I do this? And it doesn't matter. If they had the resources to be able to do it, then they would have been able to do it. All of us, me and you, we operate in the world to the best of our ability, right? And it's giving you. It's like when you give yourself a hard time for not doing something that you didn't know.
Yeah.
And then later on. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
It just causes guilt, it causes shame or whatever, and it's dilapidating. It stands in the way of your growth. It stands in the way if you're getting better. So just give yourself a break. Start from where you are. Yeah. And to go back to the original comments of starting to want again, even if it's, and I call them me moments, even if it's taking out moments in the day where you just look after yourself, just, okay, this 5 minutes is for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, whilst you're on that point, just so I don't forget, the whole thing of like the lack of a work ethic kind of sounded like I was saying people don't have a work ethic, so they don't do the exercises, and maybe the implication was because they're lazy. I actually think what's really happening is they don't have a work ethic to work for themselves. Like if that was being asked to be done for somebody else, I think they would do it. But because we're kind of going, oh, you see how you've never done anything for yourself your whole life. You've got this neurotic compulsion to serve other people. Now you're going to spend this amount of time every day on something that is only for you. And I think that's why they're just going, no, I think consciously they think, yeah, I'll do that. But unconsciously, that's not their tendency.
Interestingly enough, then, to make you aware that even doing the exercise is part of the, even committing to do the exercise, whether you complete it or doing it to the best of your advantage, almost like on a meta level, even taking the time out to do the exercise is part of the not the exercise itself, but committing to the time to do the exercise is also part of the curative process, the healing process. Does that make sense?
That's
because you're actually, sorry.
I was just going to say it's an excellent point. I hadn't thought of that, but it is actually a really a key point that, like the end goal is you heal and you get better, and then you don't need a Spartan life coach to chat to you and make you feel better. You will heal and get better if you do the exercises. Why? Because you're doing the exercises. So yeah, I hear you. Like it's a meta. There's the exercise itself, which helps you, and then there's the fact that you're fucking doing the thing is gonna help you at an unconscious level that you won't have experienced before. Yeah.
It's an example of what I was saying before. It's an example of giving yourself a break and self-care.
Yeah.
Which is important.
The one of the things we skimmed over before, and I should make it clear, we were talking about we were talking in shorthand because this is a conversation that myself and Terry and Steve had a number of times. What we found with clients, I haven't actually done any videos about this yet because the three of us haven't figured out a solution. We've been talking about it for months. Is a lot of clients, when we say, okay, now what do you want? Just go, I don't know how to want. There's nothing in me that lets me want a thing for myself. I can only want when it's through other people. And it's this, it's one of the conundrums, it's one of the riddles that we will solve, but it's still, it's not like we haven't got all the answers. It's still in process. We're still trying to figure out how do we take a client to the point where you can say, what do you want? And with no shame, no pause, nothing whatsoever, they can go, I want that thing over there. Let's go. How do I get there? Because that's consistent as well, isn't it? Most clients don't have that strong ability to even want something for themselves.
There's a few. There is a few. And again, the way I've been working with it is start small. Start small. Like someone says to me, or someone might say to me, I'm no good at decision making. I can't, I'm just all over the place, which is a sign of anxiety. Okay, well, are you a cat person or a dog person? Oh, dog. Right, okay. This is an English thing. Kit Kat chunky or four-finger Kit Kat? Oh, chunky. Right. Okay, so start small. Right. Make decisions. Tea or coffee. So even making decisions, going into a restaurant, and instead of taking 10 minutes to pick your food, go. Right. It's this decision-making muscle.
Yeah.
So we're starting to want things like, you know what? I want coffee. I want a break at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
I want some time. Does that make sense? So start small, get the muscles going. Yeah. The wanting muscles working.
Yeah.
And then, again, because for some people, the what you want, big white space. What?
Too much. No, I like that starting small, and I like it being about small choices like flavored ice cream or tea and coffee, or tea or coffee. I think for people who don't really know what we're talking about, what happens is if you imagine like a self is like a circle, like a cell, that's the ego, and that's the ego boundaries. They get so invaded, maybe in childhood, maybe through parents, or maybe through a narcissistically abusive relationship, and all of the self kind of gets gutted out. It gets pulled out, or most of it, until there's tiny little bits of self that are like hiding in the corners of the broken cell wall going, Jesus, don't kill me as well. And then we come along and we say, what do you want to do with your life, self? And the self is so small and so fragmented, it goes, I don't know. And part of our job is, and that's why we do emotional literacy, we reduce the emotional flashbacks. That's why we do the exercises we do on the course that you can do with Terry and Steve, is actually to grow that self back, or at least begin to. It's almost like physio for the soul, kind of. You know, we sort of help them walk, get those atrophied muscles, like you just said, the wanting muscles, encourage you along, go keep walking to the point where you can stagger along by yourself. Because if you can stagger along and keep going, those muscles will grow back on your own. You won't need us. You won't need anybody after that.
Quick example, you know, my training, my physical training is limited at the moment, so I'm doing what I can, which would be running. Right now, I used to run, 4 miles, which is great for me because I don't like it, don't enjoy it, don't like it, but I like having ran, if that makes sense. Right now, after a good year of, and certainly 6 months of sort of not doing much, I've started, okay, well, I'm not going to do 4 miles again. Don't want to, it makes me think about it and go, right. So, and this is the example is this: I make it as easy as possible for myself to make the right decision to do the little run that I want. So, I'll go at a certain time. I'll have it laid out, and I know where to go. I'm nowhere like around the, it's about a mile. I'm not trying to break any records. I'm just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Does that make sense? So, I'm starting small, and if it meant going around the block, that's fine. This is the same thing. Start small, little things, all the time. Every time you do, it's almost like the brain goes, oh, counter example to the I don't know what to want. Oh, okay, we can do this. We can do this. We can do this. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the brain eventually picks up and it'll sort of go, well, for a start, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And also there was elements of that I enjoyed. Maybe this is a rewarding experience rather than a punishing experience. Nobody's going to choose. Your brain, the Anthony Robbins Awaken the Giant Within book gets into this quite a lot, the pain pleasure principle. And he just makes a very strong, simple case for you're going to do what you find pleasurable. You're going to avoid what you find painful. So the things that you don't really want to do, you've got to find the pleasure in them, or they just don't happen. People who show up to the gym every day, gym junkies, they do it because it feels good. They're not showing up to, well, very few people can show up to the gym every day and have a nightmare, because we know from the psychological research, your willpower is a limited resource. You can gut through a few sessions, but after that, you ain't gotten through it because the willpower just disappears and you just go, fuck it, I'll do something else.
It's a finite source.
I say that again.
It's a finite source. Your willpower. It's like I use a bottle of energy drink. The more you use the willpower, as day goes on, the harder it gets to be able to use it. That's why at the end of the day, we come home and go, oh, you know what? I didn't want to drink, but I'm going to have that glass of wine.
Yeah.
Because I've had it hard. It's hard to use willpower.
When you said
willpower exists.
I think so. I think it does. I just don't trust it, and I don't like anything that is conscious and that requires gritting your teeth and effort. I like stuff that is unconscious and simple, and you just get it done. Which is why the exercises are designed the way they are, is to try and be as easy as possible and get the job done. I don't want it to be traumatic. I don't want people to cry every time they go to a coaching session. I don't want, let's go back into your pain. Tell me the story again of the worst. And it's like, whoa, dude, do we really? Like, it should be. Have you found that, by the way? I mean, are the sessions, obviously the first 2 sessions are going to be the heavier ones. Do you find that they get lighter as the sessions go on?
Actually, I've had some people say from the first session, I just feel lighter. Just the very fact that they verbalized what's going on to someone who's not going to go, oh, it's you. No, what? 1, who understands. Yeah. 2, who isn't judging. There's no judgment there. It's just, and 3, and this is when I explain this, people tend to go, when you verbalize it and you say things out loud, you're actually helping with the emotional processing. There's a therapy which you've done called exposure therapy. You probably have heard of it, yeah. And the essence is, you talk about the trauma into a microphone, and then you play it back and review it, and then you talk about it again to her. You talk to her, yeah, right. Again, I think it's a very long-winded way of doing it. You can do it in much shorter. NLP, we can do it much quicker.
Yeah.
The point of making it.
Well, I like you said. Go on, sorry.
Your own verbal report acts as feedback, and you reprocess it again. I'm sure you've heard people go, and I've done it myself when I've said something out loud and gone, but actually saying that, I'll change that. I don't really mean that, or it's not quite the same anymore.
Yeah.
And it worked exactly the same.
I think Jordan Peterson, controversial figure that he is. I mean, I like him. Yeah, and I'm sure he's very good at what his primary job is, which is psychotherapy. But he's made the point several times of working with clients that talking and thinking are right next to each other, and talking it through allows you to process. I don't do the coaching anymore, but I had an informal chat with one of my sister's friends the other day, and he reported the same thing after an hour's chat. I feel lighter. I feel lighter now. It's like an unburdening in some sense, isn't it?
Yeah. And even on that first session, when most people realize that, there is light at the end of the tunnel, there's hope, and it's not them. It is a conditioned response, and you can recondition yourself if you like.
Yeah.
With if you do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've been talking for nearly an hour, mate. I always enjoy talking to you, though, Terry. I'm not surprised at all. I'm going to see if there's any questions that have come up.
Sorry, did those words come out then?
I'm just going to have a look. I'm going to have a look and see if there's any questions that have popped up.
Is this live?
Yeah, this is live.
Oh, is it?
Did I not tell you?
No.
Okay. If anybody's got any questions to ask, now would be a good time to ask them. Is this live? It is live. Yeah. It's absolutely.
When I say live, I don't mean you were live, but it wasn't. Sort of.
I'm vaguely alive. More than a little. Okay, mate. Well, I tell you what, we've gone for an hour. We covered a lot of ground there. So what we'll do is we'll wrap it up, but we're going to do this again next week, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
And then now that people have seen you, had a chance to hear, your voice a little bit, see what you're all about, they can ask. They're free to ask questions next time around. Okay. Is there anything you wanted to leave the viewers with before we wrap this one up?
Yeah, don't give up. Have hope and faith in the process. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Don't give up hope.
Don't give up hope. Yeah. Listen, if we can help you, it can't be that bad, can it? A few chats to us and you feel better. Can't be as bad as it seems.
Clearly, yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks very much for your time and for your attention. And you'll be seeing more from Terry next week, and you'll be hearing from me later on. All right.
Same time.
Sorry.
Will it be the same time and day?
We can do it whenever we like, but yeah, we could do it at the same time.
Okay. I can block it out of my diary.
Well, let's block it out now then. Let's make that a thing. I'll have my people call your people. Don't go anywhere, Terry, because I'm just going to stop the broadcast. But me and you are gonna have a chat.
Okie dokie.
Okay, right. I'm stopping it now. Best
Good.
if I ask him. Is that all right? Right. That's.